me go!
Alethea was tied up by her neck with a rope, held by Miguel.
Shut up! Keep walking, you whore.
Lael was walking beside Miguel, looking like a busy merchant, pretending to take notes. He was good at acting, but he let Miguel and Alethea get all the protagonism since they liked to represent more than he did. All of them had an extreme makeover, so they wouldn't be unluckily recognized by their owners or someone else. Their voices were also a pitch different for the same reason. Lael was wearing some weird clothes he stole from a guy he had to kill once. They were too baggy for him, which also allowed him to hide a knife on his belt and a Colt M1900 between his legs. It wasn't like he needed to hide any of those, as it was legal to visibly carry weapons, but he wanted to give a reliable and innocent look. He was also wearing a black wig, since his blonde hair caught too much attention, and the attention should be mainly on Miguel and Alethea's stage. Nael and Sandra were looking and following the whole scene from apart with their Blazer R8 and a Mark 14 EBR rifle pointed at their direction, following their steps carefully and the people around them. Simon was using his "I can see you" as he jokingly baptized his latest update to the micro camera, which had now a larger memory connected to his regenerated optical nerves, allowing him to see, record, and amplify everything he was looking at perfectly at 20 kilometers range.
Is it for sale?
It will all depend, my friend. I just bought it now, so I might consider a trade if the offer is better. What could you give me in exchange?
The man, shorter than him, seemed to be dragged into Lael's voice. He was just wearing what it seemed to be a towel around his waist, and his big brown eyes made him look more innocent than he probably was. Lael noticed that he wasn't armed either.
Come with me.
He sighed, running his fingers through his dark hair, and walking in the same direction he was coming from. Lael, Miguel, and Alethea, still performing, followed them. Not even a minute passed, and the man introduced them to his store, where another merchant was sitting next to a cage with 4 people, 2 men, 1 woman, and a child.
I'm not sure what your likings are, or for what they're going to be used, but I can trade it with one of them.
He pointed to one of the skinny men.
Would you perhaps like a strong man to help you out, carrying and building things?
He then pointed to the woman who was not only skinny, but also had skin and teeth problems.
Or perhaps you like this beautiful woman to be on your service anytime you want.
He finally pointed to the young, raw-boned kid who could be around 7 years old.
But maybe you are more into little boys.
Lael was fighting the urge to kill that man right there. He made an unpleasant expression that meant he was not really convinced that he would want to trade anything with him.
Well, you know you are lucky today. You can choose 2 of them.
The man rubbed his hands, waiting for his reply. Lael sighed and rubbed his chin. Alethea started to retaliate again, so Miguel took her away enough so Lael could speak personally with the short man.
Look, I don't think we can make a deal. It's just that. You see those 2? They have perfect body conditions, and I have been collecting people like this for some time now. It would actually be my pleasure to find a strong man like him now.
His eyes looked down on him and glanced at his body. The man smirked and stood straight, trying to look strong, even if his physical was as skinny as the ones on the cage.
I see. You have good taste. Fortunately for you, I might have something you want. Come with me. Only you this time.
He walked away and whispered something to the sitting man's ear. The man nodded and looked with a wary expression towards Lael. He noticed the man should be around his 40s, although his hair was already silver. He was smoking a cigarette, and Lael couldn't help noticing that his hands were severely wounded, and with many scars. His black eyes were like looking into a deep abyss. Lael continued following the other guy without giving much more importance to this one. He wasn't afraid about what he was getting into. After all, 6 months were enough to make him experience more things in life than in his 25 years of existing. He didn't know what it was like to die, though, but it was something he wasn't afraid of anymore anyway. They walked further away from the population and more into the forest, enough for people walking around not to notice. Lael and Sandra couldn't follow Lael and the man, but Simon could, thanks to his new invention that also allowed activating night and infrared vision. Simon smirked without taking his eyes off Lael and the merchant.
I'm a genius. See? Guns are useless against the brilliance of my brain.
Lael rolled his eyes and sighed.
When someone shoots you in the head, I want to see the bullet dodge purposely, since your brain is all that special.
Sandra shook her head, amused by her own comment. Simon sighed and waved his hand to express how he was not going to waste time arguing with her.
Take a look.
They finally stopped walking. Lael frowned confused, but before saying anything, the man opened a trap door that was on the floor, covered by fake grass and rocks.
I guess I'm not going to be shoved inside it, at least.
Lael noticed the soil was overall recently moved, which proved they would have that spot recently built. He also noticed a few holes that should probably work as a way of oxygen circulation. The trapdoor was a 1 square meter long, so a person could easily fit in. Aiken smirked, fixing his confused expression so the merchant wouldn't think he was actually surprised to see what he was shown. Lael crouched near the door, but as far as he could from the merchant, in case the man would think about pushing him over. He also had one of his hands near his crotch, where his Colt was. The man only opened the main door, but a metal grid similar to the cages was still locking the way, which made Lael more relieved. When his eyes finally adjusted to the darkness inside it, his eyes opened wide for a brief second. In the underground, he could spot about 13 people, mostly women, but also men and children. Many of them were with a scared expression, hiding from the light, but most of them didn't even look at Lael, probably afraid of making eye contact. He also noticed that despite all the dirt they had, they looked like they were physically healthy. He massaged his beardless chin and nodded, pretending to be delighted. The man grinned.
I might have found what I want for my collection. I'll fetch my item, and we'll trade from here. What do you think?
Lael stood up and smiled as he adjusted his clothing.
But only the female item. I do not want the other one to be here.
Lael put his hands up to show he agreed with him.
Phew. It went better than I expected.
Lael walked slowly away from there, noticing his surroundings, leaving the man in there. He had a feeling that he was being observed, but he wasn't sure if it was Simon and the rest, or if it was someone else, although he knew that he was given a sign in case he was in danger. Nonetheless, he couldn't kill the man there without any certainties. He also found it weird that the man trusted him just like that, to see a place it was supposed to be secret, to someone he just met. But Lael thought that it could be simply because he didn't find Lael threatening, and that thought he could actually be a decent man.
Sorry, pal. If that's what you think, then you're wrong.
When he got back, the man sitting looking at him with the same wary look, but this time he seemed also confident, showing a slight smirk on his lips. Lael narrowed his eyes looking for Miguel and Edath, who weren't visible at sight. He coughed and waited to see if there was any sign from Lael, Simon, or Sandra. Nothing.